Have you been told that doing Kegels is the secret, the magic secret to fixing your postpartum pelvic floor? That if you just squeeze enough, your leaking, your back pain, and your core weakness will magically disappear? Many moms have been told this. Just do Kegels. Just do it this many times a day for this long. Just hold the contraction and your leaking, your pain, and your weakness will disappear. Well, here's the truth. Kegels alone might not be enough. And in some cases, they can actually make things worse. If you are frustrated that your symptoms haven't gone away despite doing all of the right things or a million Kegels, this episode is for you. I am breaking down why Kegels aren't the full solution and what actually works to heal, strengthen, and feel yourself again. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. So let's get started. Feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and like you've lost yourself in the postpartum chaos, struggling to rebuild your strength, heal your core, and feel confident in your body again? Hey mama, I'm Val, a functional sports dietitian, postpartum fitness coach, and a mama who understands exactly what you're going through. Welcome to the Strong and Nourished Mama podcast, where I help busy moms like you regain your energy, rebuild strength, and feel amazing through simple, science-backed nutrition and fitness strategies. If you're ready to go from depleted to strong, nourished, and unstoppable, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Mama, I know that fear you are feeling right now. The fear that comes with wondering, is this really going to work? Or am I ever going to get my strength back after having my baby? Will I ever look the same after having my baby? Maybe you're feeling unsure about whether you're even doing the right thing. Or you're thinking, what if I just don't have it in me to commit? I want you to know that these feelings are normal and you are not alone. I have been there. I have felt the pressure in my chest, the worry that no matter what I tried, my body wouldn't heal the way I wanted it to after having my baby girl. I've doubted myself, wondered if I'd ever feel strong and confident again. But here's the truth. Every breakthrough, every moment of healing starts with one decision. The decision to say, yes, I'm going to trust myself and I am going to take the first step. If you're feeling that nudge, if something in your heart is saying, I am ready to stop letting fear hold me back, now is the time. I invite you to say yes today. Join me for the Restore Your Core Bootcamp, a free 45-minute session where I am going to be walking you through exactly what you need to start healing your core and your pelvic floor. I'm here to hold your hand through this process, mama. We are going to do this together, and I believe in you. Go to wellnessbyval.com/bootcamp right now and join me in the bootcamp. I can't wait to see you there, and if you can't make it live, don't worry because I will be sending you the recording and the resources. You've got this. So before I had my baby girl, I went to become a prenatal and postpartum fitness specialist. So I have 2 certifications as a coach. I have my birth fit certification, and then I have my certification in pregnancy and postpartum athleticism. And they're amazing. And I have learned so much from these programs and have been able to implement what I've learned and then being able to practice in my own life as a mom during pregnancy and postpartum to be able to help my clients. And I'm so glad that I took these courses along with really having a deep conversation with my pelvic floor physical therapist, because something that I have always heard, especially when I think I probably didn't start to become aware of it until I got pregnant myself, but many women were telling me, just do your Kegels. Don't forget to Kegel. Don't forget to Kegel. And then same thing postpartum. And I was thinking, because I already knew from my education and talking with my pelvic floor physical therapist, because before I got pregnant, I decided to go to a pelvic floor physical therapist. After I heard her speak, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go meet with her. This would be amazing to kind of see. And come to find out, I've told you guys this before, come to find out, I was very, very tight. My pelvic floor was always contracting. And when I was brought awareness to this, I noticed like, whoa, I'm driving and doing a Kegel. I'm walking around the house doing laundry, doing everything, and always holding that Kegel, that contraction. And my body needed more of the relaxation. And I am so glad that I was able to become aware of that, not only through learning through the programs that I've taken to become a coach, but also through a physical therapist who was able to actually assess me and what my body was doing. And so many women are told this. So many women are told, just do your Kegels when you're pregnant. Like, raise your hand if that's what you've heard, and maybe you're doing it, and that's okay. But maybe you're also wondering, well, I'm doing all this effort, but why am I still leaking when I sneeze? Or why do I feel like my core is still so weak? Or I'm having back pain. Like, I don't feel like it's making a difference. What am I doing wrong? And you're not doing anything wrong. What it is that it may not be appropriate for you to be doing Kegels. So I highly recommend meeting with a pelvic floor physical therapist to really assess what's going on with you, but also just to become aware that Kegels are not going to be the magic fix that we were told to believe. Like, just do your Kegels and all will be fine. You won't have prolapse. You won't have leaking. You will feel great again after having a baby. And it can actually be making things worse, especially in my case. If I'm already really tight in my pelvic floor and I'm just constantly doing Kegels and I'm not aware of my current tendencies and I'm not relaxing, then it's going to be really difficult for me to contract and relax when I'm doing a jump rope or running or doing box jumps and burpees or laughing and sneezing and playing with my toddler. So if you've been squeezing away and wondering why your symptoms are not improving, I've got you, mama. Today we're breaking down the truth about Kegels and what really works to rebuild your core and your pelvic floor. So what is a Kegel? A Kegel is simply a contraction of the pelvic floor muscles, and the contraction is meant to strengthen them. So when you are contracting your bicep, you're trying to strengthen your bicep when you are doing bicep curls or you're flexing the elbow. Or if you are doing back squats, when you contract the quads on the concentric movement when you're standing up, you're trying to strengthen them. Your pelvic floor muscles support your bladder, bowels, and your womb. So we want to be able to, it's like this hammock that's just kind of hugging everything together. And as I've mentioned before, your pelvic floor and your core and diaphragm are all working together. And weakening of these muscles in the pelvic floor can be due to a variety of different things, childbirth being one of them, age being one of them. So as we get older, when we get into perimenopause and postmenopause, we may even start to notice like, whoa, I'm leaking a little bit more. I'm having some incontinence. These pelvic floor muscles are becoming weak. And this can lead to a variety of symptoms, with incontinence being one of them. So a Kegel is a contraction of the pelvic floor muscles, and it is meant to strengthen them. And it is often prescribed for postpartum moms to prevent leaking and improve strength. After we have a baby, we have to be able to heal, recover, which is just fascinating how fast the body recovers and heals. And we also have to be able to work on re-strengthening those muscles and improving that neuromuscular connection, the mind telling the muscles what we want them to do. Now, Kegels were first introduced in the 1940s. I believe it was 1948 when Dr. Arnold Kegel, a man, released this study on showing how effective it was for women after having a baby to engage their pelvic floor muscles can help with incontinence. When you think of yoga, you may often hear the Mula Bandha. Let's engage the Mula Bandha, connect it with your breath. And it is a Sanskrit term meaning root lock. And when we are told to engage the Mula Bandha, it's like drawing the root chakra up and in. And it's said to be located at the base of the torso or the perineum, which is the area between your butt and your vagina. And that's what we want to be able to pull in to be able to engage the root chakra or the root lock, the Mula Bandha, and therefore the pelvic floor. So you may have heard this in yoga. It's something that's pretty common. Now, doctors still recommend Kegels because they are simple. They are easy to do anywhere. So if you are complaining incontinence to your doctor, you may have heard, oh, just do Kegels to strengthen so that you don't have that incontinence. Now, do they work? Yes, but only for some women. If we really need to focus on drawing up and in to be able to contract and hold that contraction, that's going to be great, especially if we're a little weak in that area. But Kegels are not going to be the main thing to focus on if there are underlying dysfunctions within the pelvic floor. So let's talk about that. What is the problem with just doing Kegels? One, you might have a tight or overactive pelvic floor, like me. Many moms have a pelvic floor that is too tight, not weak. So start to pay attention to how you're holding yourself, where you're holding tension. For me, as I mentioned, I always was holding tension and still do in my pelvic floor. So I always have to tell myself, okay, relax. And we want our pelvic floor to be dynamic. We want our pelvic floor to be flexible. So we want it to contract and relax when we are working out. We want it to contract and hold everything in when we are going to sneeze. And if we are overthinking that, which has definitely happened to me, where like, oh my gosh, a sneeze is coming, and I over contract, then it's going to lead to incontinence. So many moms have a tight pelvic floor, especially if you're very active. It depends also where you're holding tension. And just because you have a tight pelvic floor doesn't mean you don't have a weak pelvic floor. Everyone's going to be different. So that's why getting assessed by a pelvic floor physical therapist where they can actually do an internal exam is going to be really good. Now, some symptoms of an overactive pelvic floor can be painful during sex, difficulty emptying the bladder because your muscles aren't able to fully relax to let urine out, lower back pain, feeling pressure or heaviness in the pelvis. I never felt any of these symptoms. What I did notice that it was just difficult for me to relax. And after having my baby girl, it impacted the incontinence, especially for me, when I was sneezing and especially when I started getting back into jump ropes. So Kegels can make these issues worse. If you are having painful sex, difficulty emptying the bladder, lower back pain, feeling a pressure or heaviness in the pelvis, whether it's just doing activities of daily living or even when you start exercising, Kegels can make these issues worse. So I really, really encourage you to find a local pelvic floor physical therapist. My clients who are in the local area, as me, I share local physical therapists with them. And I even have some contacts who do virtual visits as well. So that can always be great. But I urge you to meet with a pelvic floor physical therapist and then work with a coach who is trained to be able to practice what you need to implement, the relaxation as well as the contraction. Number 2, Kegels don't train your pelvic floor for real life movements. Because when you're doing a Kegel, you're really focused. You're sitting there, okay, engage, hold, and relax. But real life movements, again, it's dynamic. If you're going to sneeze, your pelvic floor has to quickly contract and then it relaxes. If you have to chase after your little one and jump or move very quickly, your pelvic floor and your core work together to contract and relax. So they don't train your pelvic floor for real life movements. Your pelvic floor works as a part of the entire body. It's not in isolation. So I'm not saying that we can never do Kegels, but we want to bring them into what we're actually doing. So for example, when I have incontinence with jump roping, which luckily hasn't happened in a while, I have to make sure that I am practicing movements that replicate jump roping. And that can be a variety of different things. It can be single leg jumping, it can be double leg jumping, but it's able to help train the pelvic floor and then have the brain and the pelvic floor work together to be able to contract and relax. Number 3, your core and breathing pattern affect your pelvic floor. If you're not breathing correctly, which many of us are not, your pelvic floor can't function properly. Many moms doing Kegels hold their breath. And so this is going to increase pressure and it's going to make symptoms worse. So we don't want to hold our breath. How can I learn to contract the pelvic floor, pull up and in slightly while engaging my transverse abdominis, bracing and breathing at the same time? That is a lot of work. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you in the boot camp. So we want to make sure that we're understanding how we are breathing and how our core is working with our pelvic floor. And number 4, leaking and pelvic floor dysfunction are about more than strength. Strength is important. We need the strength and we need to be able to work that strength up after having our baby, but so is coordination, relaxation, and dynamic movement for everyday life, and then of course in the gym. So if you are only training for strength, you're missing the full picture because we have to be able to contract and relax the pelvic floor. So what can we do instead of just doing Kegels? Kegels definitely have a place in our pregnancy and postpartum movement routine to be able to help with the pelvic floor and strengthen it. But we first need to learn how to relax our pelvic floor. So if your pelvic floor is too tight, maybe you know this, you can just tell like, well, I'm always contracting, or you've been told this. We need to start practicing to release tension before we strengthen. And this can be really hard. This is where that diaphragmatic breathing comes in, where you inhale as belly rises, exhale as belly falls. That takes a lot of practice because most people are not using their diaphragm when breathing. And this is something we're going to really dive into and practice in the boot camp. And so with that diaphragmatic belly breathing, you are relaxing the pelvic floor. Let's just keep the pelvic floor relaxed. You can do this in so many different types of positions. Laying on your back, sitting up. You can do it in child's pose, peaceful warrior, all kinds of different poses to be able to fully relax. And then we can actually add some things in with that breathing to help you actually feel your pelvic floor relax. Number 2, strengthen your core and glutes together. We're one being. We have to be able to have everything connected and work together because, again, your pelvic floor doesn't work alone. It is connected to your deep core and your glutes. So some things that we have talked about in the past, glute bridges, which are going to engage the core, the pelvic floor together, along with hamstrings and glutes. Squat with breath connection. Now, when I'm working with my clients, they're like, Val, this is really hard to do. Like when I'm bringing in the breath, the stability breath, the contraction into my squat, how does it work basically? And when we practice it and we really dive in deeper, they're like, oh my gosh. I remember a specific client and friend. She was like, oh my gosh, I can totally feel a difference when I'm squatting. She was doing this when she was pregnant, and then now she's postpartum getting back into the gym and she can feel a difference. So we have to make sure we have that breath connection with every movement, especially with squats. And then side lying clamshells, we've talked about these movements before. It's going to really help activate the glutes with pelvic stability, and your core and your breath are definitely involved. Number 3, using functional movements to train the pelvic floor. So functional movements are movements that are going to be functional for your everyday life as a human. So your pelvic floor should work when you pick up your baby, you squat, or you're carrying groceries. And all of these movements, we strengthen and we work deeper when we are exercising. Exercises that mimic real life movement, deadlifts are a great example. We want to be able to make sure we're in a good position with our deadlifts. We have bracing through the core, we're engaging the pelvic floor, and we're having good breathing techniques and connection, because otherwise you'll probably hurt your low back. And then as you're lifting up on the deadlift, whatever you're picking up off the ground, whether it's a barbell, dumbbells, your baby, or groceries, if you're not fully engaged, then you're probably going to notice incontinence, especially with the heavier weight. With lighter weights, what I'm seeing moms doing is we're not paying attention to our form, and they just go pick something up, and that's when they hurt their back. So deadlifts are going to be strengthening your core, glutes, and pelvic floor together. And then a variety of different types of lunges with breath connection. It's going to really train that coordination. And we need coordination as moms and as humans because we're not just in one plane of motion all of the time. We're going to be moving in a variety of planes. Number 4, fix your breathing and your posture. We have talked about this. We're going to dive deeper in the boot camp. I can't wait to practice this with you because there is a right way and a wrong way to breathe. I think many of us are breathing in not a way that's going to be supportive for not only just getting the oxygen that we need, but also when we're really focusing on healing and connecting that pelvic floor. So on the inhale, we relax the pelvic floor. On the exhales, we gently engage the deep core, which is your transverse abdominis, and your pelvic floor. So they're working together. This really takes practice. In the boot camp, we're going to dive into it. You're going to be practicing it, and I'm going to go into more detail so it really makes sense. Now, some posture tips. Avoid tucking your tailbone too much or over engaging the glutes where your hips are pushing forward and then you're actually not using the glutes at all. You're just hanging out on the spine. And then eventually you may get what's called a pancake butt. And stand and sitting with a neutral spine alignment to support your pelvic floor naturally. So when should you do Kegels? When your pelvic floor is weak and underactive, it's really good to be able to engage. How long can we hold that engagement, and can we quickly release in a way that's going to be effective for whatever you're asking your body to do? When a pelvic floor physical therapist assesses and recommends that, hey, you know what, we need to do some more Kegels, we need to work on that strengthening. And then as part of a full body strength and coordination plan, it's not in isolation. So it's not just like, okay, I'm going to just go do my Kegels. It's okay, when I'm going for a back squat, I'm not really thinking about Kegels. I'm thinking about breathing into my lats. I'm thinking about my stability breath, bracing my core, rib cage down and in, slight tuck in the tailbone, head up, chest up. All of these things are working together. And with that, my pelvic floor is going to pull up and engage with my breath. So it's going to be part of a full body strength and coordination plan. So it's not going to work in isolation. Now, a better strategy when you are doing Kegels, when it's appropriate to do Kegels, instead of just squeezing and holding, focusing on integrating your core, your breath, and your movement. This is something that we really will dive into in the boot camp. So what are some things that you can do instead of just Kegels? We can practice diaphragmatic breathing. We can practice glute bridges, squats with that breath coordination, deadlifts or hip hinges where you're hinging at the hip, lunges with core engagement. Check in with your pelvic floor as you're doing these movements. Are you holding tension there all day without realizing it? Are you overactive? Are we needing to work on some strength? Or what is really going on? What are your personal tendencies, especially with activities of daily living and then especially in the gym? So let's do a quick recap. Kegels alone are not the answer. Your pelvic floor needs strength, coordination, and relaxation. Relaxation, mamas. That is what we want to focus on. I think many of us, it's very difficult for us to be able to relax that pelvic floor. We want to focus on breath work, posture, glutes, and functional movements instead. We don't want to just do Kegels. If you have any symptoms like leaking or pain, Kegels might not be the solution. I really encourage you to meet one-on-one with a pelvic floor physical therapist. Whether you're pregnant, you're postpartum, have that part of your plan, and then be able to work with a coach like me who is trained in prenatal and postpartum fitness to be able to work on something specific for your core and your pelvic floor. If you want a complete plan to heal your core and your pelvic floor the right way and something that's actually sustainable, join my Restore Your Core Bootcamp. We start on Wednesday, April 16th at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to send you all the details when you sign up, and I'm going to be teaching you step by step how to build strength safely. So go to wellnessbyval.com/bootcamp to save your spot. And again, I'm going to be sending you the resources, the recording, so that you can watch it anytime to be able to practice what we go over. And don't forget, for those who sign up, I'm going to be offering some great bonuses. Again, go to wellnessbyval.com/bootcamp to save your spot. I can't wait to see you there, mama. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay strong and nourished. Hey, mama, I hope you loved today's episode. If it resonated with you, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom, a mom who's looking to make healthy eating and exercise easier? Because we need that. And if you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you could leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It truly means the world to me and helps the show reach more amazing moms like you. All right, time to chase my toddler around. Stay strong and nourished, and I will be back on Monday with another episode. Talk soon.